What's up, everybody, and welcome to a Monday playoff edition of Morning Cup of Hockey presented by Bet365. That's Colby Cohen. I'm Johnny Lazarus, and we have Mike McKenna, former NHL goaltender, joining here in about 5 minutes to get into a whole lot of topics around the NHL playoffs surrounding the goaltending position, which I'm sure everyone knows by now. Connor Hellebuyck will probably be the topic of conversation today around every single NHL platform. So why not get started by listening to us talk about it? So a lot to get into today. Hope you all had a great weekend. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of different places to dive. But Colby, how you feeling this morning?
Well, yeah, I wanted to have Mike McKenna on. Obviously, those of you who have been with Daily Faceoff for a number of years know that Mike was a massive contributor to the channel for a number of years, and he had a tweet yesterday about Connor Hellebuyck that I thought was pretty interesting, and I think that it peels back a layer of something that we probably don't talk about enough, because we always talk about pre-scouts in hockey, but we don't, we talk about, I think people just assume it's special teams pre-scouts and it's funny, we kind of got into it with Frank on here recently about that type of thing, about how you pre-scout and prepare for certain players and gamesmanship, and Frank downplayed it, and he was just flat out wrong downplaying it. And I think Mike McKenna shines some light on an important topic. Like, every team has a goalie coach, and part of their job is, it's not just to work with their goaltenders. The other part of a goalie coach's job is to pre-scout, the other team's goaltender. And I mean, I assume you probably had this at UMass, Johnny, but
yeah.
This started for me and at the collegiate level, and then
Mike was our goalie coach, plus assistant coach.
Yeah, so Jared DeMichael is who he's talking about, who's now the associate coach at Michigan State. But we'd get a scouting report before every single game on the goaltender. We'd literally get a chart, and the goalie coach would come in and especially talk to the power play for a couple of minutes and different things like that. That might have evolved over time into the video coaches doing a lot of it. But I would assume the goalie coach has a heavy hand in it. But so Mike puts out a tweet, and it really catches my eye about Connor Hellebuyck. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to have Mike come on the show, talk about Hellebuyck. He's a St. Louis guy as well. And then also we could ask him about some of the other goaltending questions around the National Hockey League, because you got a backup goalie in Edmonton who's 2-0. Questions are going to continue to come up, even though Stolarz has been great, especially when you see, the last two games, he let a soft one in both of those games. The first one didn't cost him. I thought the overtime winner was soft, although it sounds like Carter Hutton and Vic had a pretty long conversation about that, where Carter, who I think Carter's always pretty blunt. Even he's not one of those guys that's just out to protect the other goalies. Like, he says it like it is. And then you've got the backup goaltender in Montreal who's playing. So
yeah.
It's kind of a perfect time to have Mike McKenna on to really dive into some of these goaltending situations after a long weekend of hockey that had a lot of games.
Yeah, and if we can pull up the tweet, Vic, I know you have it ready. We can show Mike's tweet just before he hops on here. So, Colby, if you wanted to read that out quick, and then we'll bring him on.
Yeah, so this is the tweet that really caught my eye, and it was from Mike McKenna on X, and he said, "I think the world of Connor Hellebuyck. He's an unbelievable goaltender, but his team is lost in front of him, and the Blues have preyed on three of his weaknesses: passive hands, lack of edge release, and backward flow on rush chances, and three would be puck handling. Blues pre-scout nailed it." So I want you to bring Mike into the show, and then I want to ask him to explain what he means on those points, because even me, I don't fully understand what those things mean. So,
all right, we're going to bring on our bud, Mike McKenna. And speaking of that, we're going to have this presented by our sponsor, Budweiser. And Budweiser is encouraging buds to make time for playoffs, not excuses. Every goal, every check, every win is better enjoyed with your buds. So phone a bud, text a bud, ping a bud, and call out their excuses for bailing on the playoffs. After all, the playoffs are the most wonderful time of the year, so make them count. When it's springtime, it's go time. And with that, let's welcome on our friend Mike McKenna.
Mike, I love you. It's great to see you. I hope you're having a great morning. I'm reading on Twitter right now that the Pittsburgh Penguins have parted ways with Mike Sullivan.
Wow.
Which is not something any of us expected to wake up to. So as much as we want to talk about goalies with you, Mike, were you expecting me to read you in and tell you that?
Well, it's funny because Mike Sullivan has been untouchable for so long. It's never been his fault in Pittsburgh for so long. And it's finally happened where they've realized it's not always just the players. Sometimes you need a different voice. And I've been wondering this for 2 years now. When is it going to finally happen that they realize that you can't just tie your horse to the same person at all times? And I think what you're seeing with this is that you look down the road at Washington with a young, hungry coach in Carberry and others around the league. There's other voices out there that can get it done. So I'm not surprised by that at all. It's like it finally happened. Thank God they did it.
and now, I mean, it's going to be an arms race, I think, between the New York Rangers and the Boston Bruins to see who can offer him the most amount of money, who can offer him the most years. I'll tell you what, my good friend David Quinn is the assistant coach in Pittsburgh, so I would assume that probably means Quinn goes with him. Or is out the door in Pittsburgh as well, which is a shame. I don't like to hear that, but I'm sure Quinny will land on his feet somewhere. So wow,
you think he's hired by the end of the week?
What'd you say?
You think he's hired by the end of the week?
If he wants to be hired by the end of the week, yes. I think it's a similar situation as to like Montgomery or Bruce Cassidy. Those guys didn't last on the open market for more than a week. But what do you think, Mike?
This is a tough one here because we're still in the thick of it with playoffs. It's just dropped. Who else might be available? But Mike Sullivan's a guy that if he's available, teams have always had him on the radar, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when Vegas took Cassidy, it made all the sense in the world. You fire a guy in Pete DeBoer who's had a great track record, not in playoffs. Get to the finals but can't win, just can't get over that hump. And Cassidy hadn't been there either. Cassidy made a ton of sense for that team right away. Sullivan, with his track record previously with Boston, knowing how Boston's always wanted to keep things in house, all those ties, man, doesn't that seem too perfect? It's almost like tell those dudes to just pump the brakes here for just a second. It's interesting though because you look at Anaheim, right, and they interviewed Joel Quenneville recently. Yeah, Quenneville's out there too, so that might be the wrench that's involved here, I think, where it's not just Sullivan. You've got Quenneville too and others that are going to be looking. So maybe they'll take a bit of time. But I think if Boston really wants Sullivan, I wouldn't bet against anything in this scenario.
Yeah, I think Anaheim is the most attractive coaching job right now, to be honest. Just with the way that the direction that team's headed in, the quality of life out in Anaheim, the lack of media pressure. If that's something that you care about or focus on, I think I went to Anaheim for the first time a couple months ago, and I thought that was an incredible spot for a player to want to play and a coach to want to be.
But let me ask you this question about Anaheim, because I keep hearing this narrative of how attractive of a coaching job it is. Let me just throw a couple of things at you. First off, from what I understand, the relationship that Pat Verbeek has had with his head coaches since he got there is strange. He doesn't really speak to his head coaches. He's a very different guy, right? He said he expects his team in the playoffs next year.
Yeah.
I don't know how realistic that is. And
they were pushing the second half.
While they've had some good draft picks, which one of those guys that they've drafted is your franchise elite superstar?
It's going to be Leo
rebuild.
Carlson. It's going to be Leo Carlson.
But is he that?
He's so good, Colby. He's unbelievable. He is. I'm telling you. It's only year 2 for him, but it's going to be him.
Are we at a point though where we don't have true superstars anymore? You've got Ovi and you've got Sid and the McCars and McKinnons, but think about this Blues team. Who's their superstar?
Yeah,
every team.
They're just a team.
I don't know if every team.
It's Rob. I'll tell you guys, it's Robert Thomas. Robert Thomas is one of the best players in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's not a true. It's true. We don't look at him like he's a true elite superstar franchise player. He does not get talked about like that. And maybe it's time he needs to. I don't know. Maybe it's time he needs to. All right. So I just texted Frank. We're going to get Frank on here in 20 or 30 minutes. He's going to let me know, but he's going to come on. So we'll circle back to the Sullivan thing. And I want to dive into the goaltending stuff with you, Mike, because I don't know if you heard it, but your tweet was really fascinating to me reading it. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, like we just overlook the whole goalie scouting report thing. And then I wanted just to understand exactly what you were talking about when you were talking about these deficiencies with Connor Hellebuyck. And Vic, can you put the tweet back up just so it's on the screen for those who are just joining us? And when you say a goaltender has passive hands, lack of edge release, backward flow on rush chances, puck handling, I think is definitely a self-explanatory one, but can you dive into 1 and 2 there and explain to us exactly what you mean by that?
For sure. Yeah. And especially with the puck handling, it's really obvious in this series because Binnington is so good with it. He's a top 3 guy in the league when it comes to puck handling. The passive hands things for me is that Hellebuyck has never been a really dynamic goaltender. There's goalies out there that are explosive, that are very nimble. And in today's game, you kind of have to look to like a Marc-Andre Fleury, who at 40 still is very active. His hands are always all over. And it's not just windmill saves, it's your ability to adjust. It's something that I think a goalie like Shesterkin has pretty active hands. Right. Saros has pretty active hands, whereas Hellebuyck with that big frame of his, he's very positional. He reads the play phenomenal. Like he's one of the smartest hands.
Goalies. Are you saying like they're
Literal
attacking pucks forward or there's a lot of movement up and down? Like what exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah. So if you look at Hellebuyck's basic stance, and I can get real dirty with this if you want. I mean, his hands are very forward, right? They're like this. They're taking away aerial angle, we call it, from the ground up. They're in front of him. So, his intention is to make more saves without having to move his hands a ton, right? Make the positional save, they're in place. Now, the flip side to that is that when the puck gets further away, when you have screen chances, if you end up a little bit deep in your net and your hands are low like that, on a long shot, which you've seen the Blues take an awful lot of from the point, you don't have that same aerial angle. It's a greater angle and it opens up the top of the net. So without being he's got to be more reflexive. He's got to be willing to put his hands up and make a save and be a little bit on the acrobatic side with this. So I do think what that really gets at is saying that he can be more of a blocker at times than other goalies that are more active in today's game. So that's the first one. Talking about backward flow edge release. We used to play, man, we'd get out to like the hash marks and come flying back and watch old clips of Ron Hextall or even in the,
I
even
grew
in the
up
90s.
watching Ron Hextall, so I know what you mean.
Yeah, I just had Ed Belfour come into the liquor store I've run now, and I'm watching his games, and he's out and back and 15 feet and skating all over the place. Well, Hellebuyck has a tendency to get his feet really set on a rush chance. When he believes he's got the angle, at times he loses his backwards flow and his feet get locked. And so the Robert Thomas goal is a great example from game 3 where Thomas starts to attack the net. And both Winnipeg defensemen are so focused on the other players attacking. They leave the high lane. F3's open. It's Robert Thomas. He comes in. Kyle Connor's doing the beaver tail with the stick. That's why he didn't play the last 9 minutes, because he also had the Shen goal earlier where he didn't work in front of his own net. And here's Hellebuyck, flat foot. Thomas, one little fake, and he goes right around him. Really, the core of this is that, again, like Hellebuyck is not a very dynamic goalie. He's typically in position. He's typically in the play. But now you've got his team chasing the game in front of him, which they haven't had to do all season. They've got a tenacious forecheck coming against them. The Blues are creating lanes. And now every bit of verbiage I've heard is, we've got to help our goalie out in front of the net and let him see the puck. Mm-hmm. This is what's happening that's not good, is that the defensemen for Winnipeg have become so focused on trying to clear the front of the net, physically move a player, which, as you guys know as forwards, is almost impossible to do.
Yeah.
They're making the screen twice as wide. Now there's an offensive player for the Blues. There's a defensive player for Winnipeg. They're standing right next to each other in front of Hellebuyck. A goalie can handle one player. And if you look at Tyler Tucker's goal, which I guess was the second or third goal the other night in game 3, easy one-timer from the point. Sundqvist goes in front. Josh Morrissey chases Sundqvist. So watch this. Puck's going to go out up top. Hellebuyck is at the top of his crease. He's in great position here.
Wow. So that's a double flash screen is what you're saying.
And what you can't do is take away your goalie's eyes. We can handle one player, but Morrissey has no business crossing his goalie's sight line here to chase a player to the corner.
But
They're
Mike, this also
paranoid,
doesn't look
guys.
different to me than what they
Winnipeg
were
is
doing in the first
paranoid
two
right
games.
now. Yeah. What was that, Johnny?
This doesn't look different to me than what they were doing in games 1 and 2. Like in games 1 and 2, they were still aggressive from the point. They were getting bodies to the net. Like, why is it so drastic from home to away?
It's a fair question. I'm not sure why, but you look at how, like, watch this again. You're going to see Sundqvist here. If he just leaves Sundqvist alone, here goes one player. No problem. It's that secondary
Morrissey,
screen from Morrissey. It's his own teammate going in front of him. And you can see Hellebuyck look. Watch this. If you get to hold this a little bit longer, you can see Hellebuyck looks.
Does he give Morrissey a depth share?
Most people thought he was looking at the ref. He was looking at Morrissey. I
Right.
know that. I know that as an old goalie, you're going, why did you do that to me? This is something, Johnny, you just pointed out about Hellebuyck, though, that in the first game, games 1, game 2, he was really deep in his crease. He's made that adjustment. He's at the top of his crease here. Okay, game 1, Kyrou shoots from the top of the circle. Hellebuck's on the goal line, giving away half the net. So Hellebuyck has consciously made the decision to get out to the top of his crease, and he's still getting scored on. And Neighbors off the shaft of the stick on a wide shot from Proraso.
Yeah.
He's not stopping that, guys.
Yeah, that's not on him.
Falk puts one at the net. It goes off Pionk's ass and in. He's not stopping that, right? So how much of this is team versus Hellebuyck, man? I'm telling you, this is not just him. He's not playing poorly. He's not playing great. But, man, he's getting all the heat right now.
Yeah.
Well, it sucks.
Let me hold on. I want to sit on that. I want to sit on that Tucker goal for a second because I want to ask you, as a defenseman, right? My concern, and I agree with you because, you know, the flash screen seems like in modern hockey now is a much more difficult play for a goaltender than just a stationary screen because most of these goalies are big. They can look over you. They can look around you. These guys have gotten so athletic and so I feel like the flash screen is like so underrated and so much harder for a goalie to track a long shot. But if you're Morrissey there, and let's just say when I forget who he's chasing there in front of the net. We said it was Sundqvist. When Sundqvist rolls through there, if you're Morrissey and you stop and you basically stay on the near side and you let him see that shot, instinctually, my thought as a defenseman is well, if I'm not within on his stick, what happens if that rebound goes right to him there? My goaltender is at the top of his paint. Then it's me for not staying with my guy. So, like, I want to work through this with you here, Mike, because I wouldn't understand, like, where should I go there? Like, how should I do a better job there if you're Morrissey thinking about the fact that your goalie's probably going to make the first save, right? That's at least what you're thinking. Like, my goalie's got this one. I got to be worried about the next one.
Yeah. I think the big key to this is you got to trust your goalie to be able to control a point shot. And this is hard because you're hitting exactly on what the player's thinking, Colby, that I have to take that guy. I've got to be on him, man. My coach is going to be all over me if I'm not. This is what I got to do.
It's going to look ugly on the film tomorrow if I don't get this guy's stick and he gets a tap in.
Right. Well, you have to trust your goalie to make that first save. And in today's game, if that rebound kicks to a terrible angle like that, one, they've got to corral it and hit it. But two, the goalie's actually going to be fairly close to his post. It's not a terrible place to put it.
Okay.
To me, it's about protecting the middle of the lane. And I used to always say this to my defensemen, just please do not cross my center line of sight if you can. And please, if there's a shot coming, stay on the inside half to the middle of the ice if you can, and let me have that outside shot. Because if Morrissey stays towards the middle, he still may be able to take Sundqvist's stick and try to prevent a tip in front. But if he stays to the middle, Hellebuyck not only should be able to control, but Hellebuyck should also be able to put that rebound if he has to into a good place. Like when you have time like that, you can do it. So it's tough because you really do have to trust your goalie and you have to trust your system here, right? Like the timing can matter too. Whereas if you can get across Sundqvist before the shot comes, man, you're looking like roses.
Yeah.
But that's really tough to do. So the timing aspect is part of it. And it's a split second read.
Okay.
Does the 2 days off here, So St. Louis, Winnipeg, they don't play tomorrow night. They play Wednesday night now. You know, how much does that benefit Hellebuyck just to have maybe this 2 days to reset, practice, like get his mind right kind of for game 5? I mean, I'm sure the question's going to come up on whether you think he'll start game 5 or not. I think there's no chance in hell he doesn't start.
Starting game 5.
He's playing.
Well, you're gonna hear that today.
Yeah,
There's
because people want to drum up drama on social media, but that guy's playing. There's no chance he's not playing.
But that 2 days between games, I mean, this time of year, you know, I feel like sometimes that's not talked about enough, having that extra day when you have 2 games where you get yanked. You know, now you're going back home to get your mind right and just reset mentally.
Yeah, it took me a year before I got over it a couple times. So
just one goal, one game.
You know what? I'll dive into that story in a second. Like it's a quick one, but I think more than anything, just going home.
Yeah.
Whether it's a day or 2 days, Hellebuyck's it's weird to hear people say he's like not mentally strong.
No, that's not what I was implying. I'm just saying, like, you know.
I get it, but this is the echo chamber of what. Well,
is it fair, this whole playoff Hellebuyck thing? Like, you think this narrative is total bullshit, or do you think it's reasonable? Like, because it's a narrative. It's like, here's playoff Hellebuyck. Like, I mean, it was last year in the playoffs, and while we could probably pick apart the defense again last year too, Mike, it does seem like he goes from a guy nobody can score on all year to a guy who's a good but not superstar goaltender come playoff time.
I think it's real. And I don't think it's a mental thing as much as people think. I think it's really related to what we touched on earlier with the way he plays the game. Mm-hmm. Think about the goalies that have won Stanley Cups, man. They all have, like in recent times, they've got a compete level and an explosiveness to them that, like, frankly, he doesn't have. Okay. And again, like, this guy's 1,000 times better than I ever was. But in the regular season, when half the teams you're playing are junk, your numbers get padded. And when you play against the good teams, your team's ready for it. And when you got Ehlers and Velarde and your power play's crushing and all these, like, it's just a whole different vibe. Winnipeg's not the same team as they were in the middle of the season.
Right.
Like, they're not. And
the opponents aren't this, and you know, other teams ramp it up, like you kind of just mentioned.
Well, and they're playing a team in St. Louis that's won 14 straight games on home ice.
Hot. Yeah.
Like, that building was hot, dude, last night or 2 nights ago.
Yeah.
So I think it's real, though. I do think.
No, finish your thought.
Yeah, just the way Hellebuyck plays, I think, I'm not sure it's made for playoff success. Like, think about Tim Thomas. Why was he so good in the playoffs?
He was dude. He competed. I saw it. I watched it. Like, I literally had a front row seat to it. He basically didn't come to practice, and he competed so hard in games. Like, I've never seen anything like the way that guy competed in games.
That's why I brought it up, because I knew you saw it, and that's why. I mean, Bennington, people thought he was a maniac for a long time. Well, the guy wants to win that bad, man, and it reflects it in the way he plays. Yeah. So
Tim Thomas, the saves that he makes when he's so out of the play, that he did, especially during the 11 Cup run, I mean, that should have ended in the first round against against Montreal in overtime. He makes a save on Giunta in overtime that just he had no business saving. Like, that most goalies probably don't even try to save, but he saves it overtime in overtime, and it goes the other way, and we get the win, and then we go on to, come back from 0-2 and we win in 7. No, that's a really, really good point when you talk about compete level in playoffs. So, all right, there's a couple of other goalie situations I want to get into with you that are like different types of situations, but still situations. Anthony Stolarz has been, lights out, in my opinion, since game 1. Now, we got the win in game 1, but I didn't think he was nearly as good as he's been. You can point some fingers at the overtime winning goal, although I think you're going to say the same thing about 2 players flash screening him on that overtime winning goal where he doesn't get that puck. But my question for you here is, Mike, this is a guy who's not used to playing every day. He's been a splitter. He's been a backup. Is this the time for the Toronto Maple Leafs to go to Joseph Woll in a series clinching game and maybe give the opportunity to Stolarz to rest a little bit before the series either gets extended or goes into the next round? Like, how would you handle this situation with Anthony Stolarz?
Well, first, it's going to take communication. And I'm not sure the level of that in their locker room. I don't know that staff as well. I don't know their goalie coaching ranks as well as I do other teams. I do know that Craig Berube is always stuck with one goalie, man, ride or die. That's his thing, old school. This is a situation where I would be very comfortable going to Joseph Woll, for sure. And I would be comfortable going to one goalie for 2 games or 3 games and going back and forth. I'd be all right with it with this, because this is a different scenario than Hellebuyck and Comrie. Okay, that's dude. Right. Again, same thing.
Yeah,
Eric Comrie, man, I love that guy.
Yeah,
but
it's not the same. It's not.
It's just not.
Yeah,
and
it's not. Come on.
And also that's a 2-2 series, and like it's different.
Yes, and so Joseph Woll has played some damn good playoff hockey before. He's played some damn good regular season hockey before. I also coached him from 10 to 16 in the summers here in St. Louis. So I'm kind of like rooting for this guy. And I also know Stoli really well too. So I actually love that dynamic.
They're both easy to root for.
Yeah, but wouldn't the same argument be just have Stolarz go out and win game 5 and give him the rest before round 2 starts? Like,
it is, but also think about this. Like, I hate to say this because it's kind of like Anderson and Carolina, but these are Stoli, Anderson. These are guys that have had a hard time staying healthy their whole career.
Exactly. It's reality. We're not making this up. These guys fight injuries.
And playoffs is a different animal. Like I went to 2 Calder Cup finals in the American League, and both times I pulled a groin because I was playing more hockey in a time frame I'd never played with very little rest. And I played through them, but it takes a toll on your body you're not used to. Man, if I'm Craig Berube and I got 2 bullets in the chamber and Woll and Stoli, I'd use them. I would, guys. I think it's a smart play. You're not going to be losing anything there. You're up in the series, and you have to communicate though. Like, you got to talk to your goalies. This has to be thought out.
Right.
But these are guys that are mature. Stolarz, Woll,
these guys are in their late 20s, 30s. Like, Stoli's got to be in his early 30s. Is he 30 yet? He's got, I would think so.
Stolarz, he's old. He's
29, 30, something up there.
I think he's 95.
So, and that's my thought here is you give Stoli the rest. Let's just say you lose, right? I don't expect Toronto to lose the game, but let's just say you lose. Then you can go back to the guy who helped get you to this point with a couple of extra days rest, feeling refreshed, where I think it's kind of, you tell me, if I come to you and say, hey, Mike, you haven't played in how many weeks? We're throwing in you a game 6 where if we don't win, we go to game 7, and now we're 1-16 in closeout games with my core 4. Like, I just feel like game 6, there's so much more pressure. So I feel like if you're going to get Woll engaged, now might be the time to do it. And that's why I asked you this question. I see Zach in the chat. Zach produces the sheet. He's also a Leafs morning take guy. He does Leafs after dark. Like, he's one of, he's one of our colleagues. And I'm curious what you think, Zach, here. Weigh yourself into the chat. But I just think this would be the time to get your other goaltender engaged, because most likely you're going to need Woll at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're spot on. Like, again, this is a scenario. I agree with you guys. Like, I would play Joseph, and I've been thinking about this the last couple of days with it too. You start to see rumblings. It has nothing to do with the game winner. It has nothing to do with how Stolarz has played. It's purely tactical. And again, to me, how close have either of these goalies ever been to winning a Stanley Cup? Stolarz or Woll?
Well, Stolarz, he backed up last year.
He backed, right? And that's because that's what I mean. He's he knows. Like, guys, he's you've got one guy in Woll who's just had continual defeat with the Leafs, and then you've got Stolarz who's ridden shotgun to this thing and knows what it's like. So if you look at him, and especially with the way it was last season with Bob and everything, and you say, Stoli, man, you've played great. We think this is a tactical advantage for us because we believe in both of you, and you're going to go right back. But tonight we're going to play Joseph, or you're going to go right back. Let's get you ready.
Yeah.
As a pro, you got to say, damn right, man, let's do this. Let's win this thing. You don't need the glory. You need that second ring on your finger.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it's about.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, Johnny. I'm a little surprised. Like, I didn't know how you'd react to that question. I thought you might be like, you're crazy. You got to ride your guy. No. But yeah, no, I'm kind of looking at it that way too, but I'm leaning on you for expertise because you've been in these very specific goaltending situations that I never have. Right. So I can have my opinion, but I'm going to lean on you for yours because you have an expert opinion that we just don't have when we're talking about goaltenders.
Yeah,
Well,
and
I feel like, oh, sorry, go.
it's just real quick. I just
Yeah.
think it's so different if there's a big delta between the goaltenders. I really do, right? If you're just clear cut, like the Jets cannot, even if the Jets are up 3-1 in a series, they're not tossing Comrie in. You know,
No.
it's Hellebuyck's net. End of story.
Yeah.
That's what
Agreed.
he's paid to do, is to play 1,000 games a season.
Yeah. Agreed, Johnny.
Well, like what I was going to say also is if you had success doing it in the regular season, splitting the net like Toronto did all year, why change it in the playoffs and just put everything on one guy? Like Stolarz had 33 starts in the regular season, and Wall had 41. Like Wall played the majority of the regular season. This isn't something that's like uncommon. Like that's why the whole Ullmark Swayman debate we had last year, it didn't. I mean, while Swayman was so good, like do what you did all year that got you there. Like, why are you changing things up now? That's what I don't understand when we have these conversations this time of year. Like that said, I still think Stolarz gets the start, but if there is a time to change it up, now's the time. But here's the question. Joseph Wall stands on his head, but they lose. Let's say Ottawa wins 1-0. What do you do for game 6? What do you do?
You go back to wait. You said if Wall plays and that happens.
If Wall plays and Ottawa wins 1-0, Wall stands on his head.
You go back to Stolarz. That's easy. You go back to Stolarz.
See, I think that's where it gets hard.
Yeah, but can I
the guy loses the game?
Let me make a statement here that I truly believe the NHL lives and dies by. And Mike, I tell me if you disagree, and obviously don't be afraid to. Worry about tomorrow's problem tomorrow. In the NHL, man, there's times where everyone's like, this guy's coming off of IR. We got too many players. We're gonna have to put someone on waivers, and then boom, someone else gets hurt. Like, you worry about tomorrow's problem tomorrow in pro sports more than any other. I don't recommend that if you're a CEO. You got to think about tomorrow's problem more if you're running a Fortune 500 company. But in sports, I think you live in the now. You worry, especially in the playoffs. You deal with tomorrow's problem tomorrow. That's at least what I've seen GMs and coaches do.
I agree with you. It's almost like I always had this thing in my head when I played, and I feel like it's apropos because we've talked about Hellebuyck here. First save first. I used to always say that to myself. First save first. Don't be worried about what happens downstream, right? Because if you start worrying about that, then you start to get nervous. When you get nervous, you don't play with your same confidence. And that's what we saw in Hellebuyck in game 1 and 2 when he was so deep on his goal line, was that he's thinking, oh God, Robert Thomas is going to pass it back door for sure here. Or Cairo's moving the puck. The Blues love to move it side to side, east-west. Next thing you know, he's on the goal line off his angle, giving up half the net. He was not playing first save first. It's kind of the same way. If they played Wool in game 5 and they lost, like you say, Johnny, 1-0, I'd still go with Stoli in 6 for sure. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
I love that tandem dynamic. I actually do. I think it's a strength of theirs.
It's a good problem to have. Like, I think any team would want this goalie debate. Like you just talked about with Hellebuyck and Comrie. Like, don't you wish they had this option? Like,
and the best here is we're talking about this for a series that's 3-1.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know, just to try to kind of rein it back in a little bit. It's 3-1. So the last goalie situation or tandem that I really want to get into is the one in Edmonton, because I don't think this was meant to be a tandem. And look, we love Calvin Pickard. Like, he's come on our show before. We were in training camps together.
He's the nicest guy in the world.
We were young guys, but like, I can't believe this is what it's come to. And the guy's now won 2 games in a row. You know, and he's made saves late in the game when he needed to. And I think LA has pissed these games away, the way that they've sat back, and the big dogs in Edmonton have just made freaking plays, like, you know, and in the dying seconds. But how sustainable is it with Calvin to, you know, win multiple rounds of because listen, in Edmonton, it's Stanley Cup or bust. Should it be? No, but it is.
Yeah. Well, and dumb reviews from LA that don't help either. You know.
Yeah, Jim Keller has not done himself any favors, that's for sure.
Like, geez. Like,
yeah. I think
I don't care who's in that net though. Personally, for me, Mike, like I watch this team and they, like I tweeted last night. Edmonton hates playing defense, and an NHL player actually texted me and was like, "Dude, this is insane! Like how poorly this team defends."
They literally don't manage the puck or play in their own zone. Yeah. They look like it's a summer skate. Everybody's.
I agree with Jeremiah. That should have been a 4-0 sweep.
They looked pretty. Like when Woodcroft was coaching, they looked pretty structured for a while.
I know.
Then that, and then that went out the window eventually. It's like this is the only way this team can play.
It's that Bouchard nurse pairing too right now.
It's uncomfortable for the Edmonton Oilers to play with structure. It's not their DNA. It's just not their DNA.
Yeah, freewheel. So back to your question on this. Honestly, to win a Stanley Cup, I think they need better goaltending. That's my honest thought, and that's because I think Cal is a .905 goalie in the NHL. And Cal's career path is so weird because he had a great year in Colorado and then Vegas for like no reason, drafted him, canned him, brought Malcolm in. Like it was the weirdest thing ever. And then Cal was just out from the stratosphere for years. Like he backed up Garrett Sparks in the American League for the Toronto Marlies when they won the Calder Cup. That's where he was 5 years ago, and now here he is on the big stage. So like huge credit to Calvin Pickard where he is.
He played a total of 12 games in 3 seasons for the Red Wings.
Yeah. And
it's crazy.
They're gonna need a goalie to win. And I kept hoping that Stuart Skinner would just keep ramping. And I think he's done a pretty good job for them too. But there's a limit to him, kind of like Cal. And I think both of those guys especially Stu is really similar to Hellebuyck in that he doesn't have that same explosiveness again as others. It's just not quite there. They need a 9-10 or 9-15 guy. Like they need a Bobrovsky. They need somebody with some clout there. And they keep going to the bargain bin because when you're tying all their money up elsewhere and they haven't.
Yeah.
They've developed 4th and 5th round draft pick goalies.
Yeah.
Why haven't they had they didn't draft a goalie for like 6 years. Look that one up. Like it was an absolute disservice to that franchise that they didn't put any equity into developing a goalie to get you a Stanley Cup next to Connor McDavid, right? Everybody laughed when Florida signed Bob to a $10 million
looks pretty good now.
Looks really good now that he won a Stanley Cup, and people are ready to can him after year 3 of it.
And he was the difference in that Game 7 last year. We talked about the difference. Like we didn't say Skinner played bad, but we said Bob played like a $10 million goalie, and Stewart played like a guy who's a B plus. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that was the difference. And look, I do want to be fair because now I'm starting to see the Stan Bowman sort of hate in the chat. And listen, he some of it's deserved. It's not as if goaltenders grow on trees, first of all. It's not always, there's a million options out there. And the ones that they're probably hard deals to get done. Look, at one point this year, I floated, go get Fowler and Gibson and bring them to Edmonton. And I got crucified for that. Now, Gibson has trouble staying healthy. Like, I get all that. And like, I see your facial expression and okay, if that one's a swing and a miss, but I'll tell you right now, I bet you they wish they had Cam Fowler on their defense.
I agree with that.
Right now. Okay. So I was 1 for 2 on that. All right. I'll take 1 for 2. Like I'll take a swing and a miss and in my opinion, a home run because Cam Fowler, look what he's done in St. Louis. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Catherine had a good comment in the chat too. She just said, I think it was a huge gamble for them to count on Skinner snapping out of his funk again in these playoffs. It has to be frustrating for McDavid to see them not improve that position year after year. I mean, the look on his face after that 3rd goal last night, I think it was who scored the breakaway? Was it Fiala that scored the breakaway on Calvin or Trevor Moore? Maybe someone had that breakaway, that 3rd goal. And you see, and the camera pans to McDavid and he basically looks like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, they should manage the puck a little bit better. I mean, you can be angry at your goaltender, but you watch the riverboat hockey that they're playing. Like it looks like hockey that you play in August before training camp in captain scrimmages, not playoff hockey in the spring. Like it just doesn't pass the eye test. I'm sorry.
Us 3 sitting here can say that because we look at it and we know exactly what's causing everything to happen. But to the casual fan that walks in a building, and even to a lot of beer leaguers, and even to some of the best players in the world, they look at that puck go in the net and they go, oh, just make a fucking save.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They forget every other thing that you've done.
Unfair of us. We said that on the third goal last night, though. Like, even though Bouchard turned it over poorly and Fiala gets a breakaway, like I think we all texted like, oh, like you got to save one. You know, you want.
Listen, Mike, I'm incredibly hard on goaltenders come playoff time. Like I say, like, if you want to win a Stanley Cup, and we already talked, we hit this, but like my rookie year, I literally watched Tim Thomas win our team a Stanley Cup. He is the only reason. Like, he's 70% why the team won, and then 30% for the other 20 players. Like, and that was my introduction into the NHL playoffs as a pro. And so now I look at these teams that win, and I'm like, I expect more out of you. You want to win a Stanley Cup? Your goaltender needs to be subhuman. Like, and that's the way I grade and look at goaltenders in the playoffs. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good shot, but I'd rather see the goalie make that save. Like, I do say that a lot. Like, I'm very, very hard. I'm also hard on defensemen who turn pucks over. I'm hard on forwards who leave the zone early. Like, we called out McDavid last week. We called out McKinnon last week. We don't carry water for anyone, but I feel like goalies have to be graded on a harder scale in the playoffs. And even your job is to bail your guys out because you're the last line of defense. Fair or unfair, that's what you sign up for.
It's real. It's like the fighters in the game, right? You can't handle the heat, stay out of the kitchen. I've heard fighters say that all the time, you know. Yeah. And the only one in recent memory that was, you know, like Kemper in Colorado, they were so good that year that Kemper just had to hold the fort. He was fine.
Yeah.
I do think Adin Hill played the best hockey of his career when Vegas won the Cup. No doubt in my mind. Like, I'm thinking of his paddle save goal line, and he wasn't before either, and now he's there. But it's real. Like, guys, and this was I touched on it real quick. I was going to tell you the story where I played in a playoff series for Springfield against Providence. I got pulled in the last two games of the series. And again, and neither of them were like, didn't play like poorly, but got pulled, right? Too many goals against. The next season, the first two games, I get pulled in that. So I went 4 games in a row that I got pulled, and I'm thinking, I'm never going to get over the hump here, man. Like, I can't, I'm what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? And for whatever reason, the next year I had a great 5-game series, the first round against Hershey. And then from there, like 2 finals, it can click for guys sometimes.
Yeah.
And goalie takes experience to do it sometimes.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, this has been really, really interesting. I'll tell you this. I don't know if you see the chat, but there's a lot of people in our chat that have said in today, like, wow, I learned something about hockey today. I got smarter from Mike McKenna talking about some of that stuff with Connor Hellebuyck. So thanks for making time for us today. We appreciate that tweet that sparked this whole thing last night. Great to have you back on. Great to see you. You know, neither of us, I know, we're at the Warrior Nationals this weekend, but our respective clubs were battling hard. So keep in touch and enjoy the playoffs down the stretch, man. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, this was a blast, man. I appreciate it. And anytime we can fit it into the schedule and I'm not slinging booze, you guys just
Well, I was just going to say, wait, for those of you who are in the St. Louis area, give a quick shout out for Mac Doodles here, because we have a bunch of St. Louis people in the chat.
Yeah, we're out in Dardenne Prairie, and thanks to Budweiser for sponsoring. Great partners of ours in AB.
Mm-hmm. Good. Awesome. Well, make sure you go to Mac Doodles, support Mike McKenna's store. We love that. Thanks, buddy.
Last thing, Mike, Stephen Ellis keeps asking who's going to win the Indy 500.
Oh man. Alex Pillow for Chip Ganassi Racing. He's going to do it.
You got it. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Catch you later.
All right, read Frank in with Proraso, and let's get to today's big news.
Yep, no time to waste. So let's bring on our friend Frank Seravalli. But before we do, just want to give a quick word from our sponsor, Proraso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Proraso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps. Hockey15. Frank, lovely sweatshirt that you have on this morning.
Yeah, out west. Let's go.
Yeah, I know. I feel I should have worn mine today. I didn't.
Yeah, you're missing out, buddy.
Yeah. So I guess first of all, did you see this coming with Mike Sullivan?
Absolutely. This has been, I don't know if whispered is the right word, but this has been rumored for a while that, look, first off, Kyle Dubas wants his own guy. And second, Mike Sullivan ran the show from top to bottom in Pittsburgh. He's the only coach that I know of was employed in the NHL that got his extension by going around the GM and doing it directly with ownership. That was during Ron Hextall's tenure as general manager. But what that tells you is just how linked in Mike Sullivan was with the Pittsburgh Penguins and where things were heading. So when a new GM comes in and hears that news, the first thing I think of is, unless that person is ultra secure in themselves, then you're going to want to make a change and bring in your own guy. And it was kind of only a matter of time. And I think if you're Mike Sullivan, you're sitting there looking at the coaching landscape going, this is an incredible time to be a free agent.
Original 6 jobs are open everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, and you've got 2 tremendous opportunities, I would think, between the Rangers and Bruins, 2 organizations that you have worked for. He lives in Boston. His son-in-law plays for the Bruins and Charlie McAvoy, but he also spent a while on the New York Rangers bench under John Tortorella. And I would think that job for a recent President's Trophy winner would also be really appealing.
Yeah. You always just wondered, because you knew the connections with Fenway Sports Group and Sully. And, it reminds me, it's funny. Like, I say this all the time, and to some people, it's just like, okay, yeah, we've heard you say this. And like, I don't think Mike Sullivan is getting fired because he's a bad hockey coach. It's also time. Like,
I thought he was going to finish out Crosby's
tenure. Stay in the same place too long. Like, I always talk about Andy Reid when he moved on from the Eagles. Like, he wasn't a bad coach, but it was time. And now look at, he's after Belichick, he's like right up there, right? Like, I just thought it was time. And my question, Frank, is like, do you think, is this another Bruce Cassidy, Jim Montgomery? Like, does he have a new job by Friday, or do you see him taking his time and checking in everywhere? Or is it like he knows, like, okay, like it's Boston or New York, and he gets to make the decision basically?
He knew. And that's why I think this is framed as part ways. Like, in the end, did Kyle Dubas fire him, or was Mike Sullivan ready to go? Like, I think both those things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
And
what's the point of keeping him right now anyway in Pittsburgh?
Well, I think more to your point, if you're Mike Sullivan, you've won 2 Stanley Cups with this team. They're going sideways, if not down. And what's the incentive to stay? I mean, you've spent nearly a decade with Sidney Crosby and that core. You've got lifelong connections and memories. You've hung 2 banners in the arena. Now what? On to the next challenge. So to answer your question, though, this, like, I wouldn't be shocked. Like, I've gotten messages from NHL general managers already this morning saying, does Mike Sullivan end up in New York today or tomorrow? Like, I think this is one of those things that could be locked up within the next 48 to 72 hours.
It's between those 2 teams. There's no other.
What do you think is a bet? Let me ask you both this question.
Yeah.
But I'm asking Frank first, Johnny, because you have too much skin in this game. Frank, if you're Mike Sullivan, you've got Chris Drury working for an owner who is erratic. You've got Don Sweeney, who only has a contract for next year, and Cam Neely said, we'll figure out if we're going to make it. What's the better situation as far of a longevity standpoint? Or for him, is he doesn't have to worry like most coaches would about a new GM coming in, because that's always real.
Well, he's survived a couple GM changes in Pittsburgh. I mean, when he started, he was with Jim Rutherford, then he was with Ron Hextall, then he finishes off with Kyle Dubas. He's been the one constant there. Which one's more attractive? I'd have to think, if you're Mike Sullivan, that it's from a team perspective, the Rangers; from a lifestyle perspective, the Bruins. I mean, there's probably some part of him that, having gotten his first NHL head coaching job with the Bruins prior to the salary cap being put in and prior to the lockout, that
wants another
probably feels like, some unfinished business, I would think, to think that you could go back and change or rewrite a different story. And I think the amazing part about his story is that he went so long between head coaching jobs, from that opportunity in Boston to getting another crack 13 years later, 12 years later with the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I remember the sort of push and pull of, he had been by John Tortorella's side for so long that a lot of people were saying, dude, you gotta separate here. You got to go in another direction, because you're never going to get out of the sort of typecast of being John Tortorella's assistant. And so he obviously went and forged his own path and got another opportunity. But I understand it's the gravitational pull to Manhattan. It's the Rangers, it's Broadway, it's, it's a special opportunity. But I would think that the volatility of the position with a mercurial owner would probably knock it down a few pegs in my book.
And I'm just kind of, I'm trying to like wrap my head around everything, obviously, because to me, it seems like Tortorella now being available. And there was that rumor over the weekend, if you saw it, Frank, that
no truth to it.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
What was the rumor, Johnny? I'm sorry.
Sammy Silver from the Hockey News tweeted like that she was hearing that John Tortorella is going to the Rangers, but didn't say to what degree. Like,
imagine if Torts was the assistant coach for Sully with the Rangers. That would be
Colby. You and I have said front office potentially, right? With John John Tortorella for his next venture. So I thought maybe like that could have been.
There's no chance for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Well, just wanted to clarify that, but I'm also again like. I don't really know how to ask this because none of us are them, but is the family dynamic between him and McAvoy almost like a turnoff that it's like too close to home?
Nah, these are professionals.
That's
that's professionals. In my opinion, these are.
I don't know how to phrase that because it's not us, obviously. But
yeah, I don't know what your opinion is, Frank, but like you're talking about guys who are so ultra competitive that like I don't know. I don't see that being an issue, Frank. What's your thought on that?
If a guy can coach his own son in the NHL, which has happened multiple times now, you can coach your son-in-law.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
No one really likes I'm just thinking about this from like, I know this is true for Colby, but no one really likes their son-in-law, do they? I mean, maybe Mike Sullivan likes Charlie. I don't know.
But with that too, just like with the way Four Nations went, Frank, if you're looking at you guys done.
All right, sorry.
Look at me reeling it back in. Because I know this. Look, there was a lot of conversation surrounding Adam Fox after Four Nations, right? Mike Sullivan demotes him to the bottom pair basically after one period. Is that looked at as a part of that relationship? You have your number one defenseman in New York and a head coach who just demoted him at an international tournament. Like, how's that relationship? I think there's a lot of questions to be asked too. With that experience and obviously with how Charlie played and how great he was, in Four Nations, like there's a lot of little relationship things I think that can go into it as well.
I think the bigger question, if you're the Rangers, is, and this, you're going to laugh when you hear me say this, but truly, how different is Mike Sullivan than Peter Laviolette? They're both very much CEOs. They both have been at it a very long time. They're from Boston. They have similar styles in the way they comport themselves, their presence. How different are the X's and O's and the preparation? Like, probably not that different. That would be my big concern or question mark is, are you basically just bringing in the same guy again? And I know their track records are different.
I think he's more adapted more to the new age
details. Like, I think he's more of a details guy. It just, in my opinion, where Lavi is more of a 10,000 foot guy. It just, from what I've understood from these two guys, that's my opinion.
But really, though, in the end, how different? Like, other than that, like, how different are they?
Yeah, well, I guess we'd find out if he went and had the same results, right?
I think in the end, I don't really care who the coach of the Rangers is. Like, Gallant, Lavi, Sullivan. If they don't change their personnel and if they don't fix the way that they defend from a personnel perspective, it's not changing the system, it's changing the players. If you don't fix your back end, you're not going to fix your team. Same goes for a multitude of other teams around the league. If the Detroit Red Wings don't fix their back end, they're not going to be a playoff team.
Yeah. Also, I'm curious too, Frank, like we saw St. Louis, fire Bannister this year once Montgomery became available. Like, does this now cause a ripple effect and maybe someone gets fired to try to bring in Sullivan, or is it really just limited down to these two teams? Like, is it just Boston and New York? I said Anaheim before is an attractive spot, and but I can't imagine he goes there.
No, I don't see that working. And I mean, I guess maybe you'd have to hold out some potentiality if the Vancouver Canucks and Rick Tocchet don't see eye to eye, the Jim Rutherford, Patrick Allvin connection from Pittsburgh.
It's true.
Does that mean something? I mean, I just don't see with those two teams being the opportunity in the East and where he's from and the connections in those organizations. I don't know that trumps it to go work in Canada to be part of the Canucks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Listen, I don't like, I have a lot more stuff I want to get into with you, Frank, but I think I want to save some of it tomorrow. I know this was just kind of like an emergency.
Oh, I'm coming back tomorrow.
Oh yeah. You're coming back tomorrow.
Please.
This doesn't count. This does not count.
What?
This was just because of our friendship.
I'm saying this publicly now too. So,
This
I'll
doesn't
save,
count.
I want to
right.
save everything else for tomorrow. The Mike Sullivan thing. Look, we have to thank the Pittsburgh Penguins because most teams wait until like 10:15 to say these things, and we're just getting off the air. So thank you to Pittsburgh for doing this while we were on the air. And we're going to save, because I got a million other questions for you about
Well, can you ask one of them now? Like, get it out now.
I'm saving
I
them
have
all.
one.
Johnny,
I have one.
Put your hand down. This was about Mike Sullivan.
Yeah,
That's
I know.
all right.
And yeah, I'm
Okay.
asking you a question. We're
Ask
going to
about
talk
Mike
about where
Sullivan.
Mike Sullivan goes next, but who the hell is going to be the next coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins? Who's going to want that job?
That's going to be a really interesting hire.
Yeah.
I think the first thing you look at are what are some previous Kyle Dubas connections, and would Kyle Dubas try and make a run? I know we didn't talk about it yet, but it was a big topic over the weekend about David Carl and Denver. I can't necessarily see that from a roster and team building perspective being a fit for him, but can Kyle Dubas convince David Carl on an intellectual basis to be part of that?
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I am curious about the Chicago situation, but I do want to save that for tomorrow because, like I said, I today was just an appetizer for the audience. We do expect to have
appetizers.
We do expect to have you back tomorrow. We'll keep you for shorter time tomorrow. Johnny, do you have anything else, or can we let Frank live his life?
Yeah.
All right.
Let Frank live his life.
Live your life. We'll see
Thanks
you
for
at
this.
noon on
This
DFO Live.
doesn't count.
Thank you for the appetizer,
Thank
Frank.
See you guys.
Dinner on me, pal.
Yeah.
Let's see how I did that. I had to do that. I had to do that publicly. I didn't want to do that privately, just because I wanted to put him. I wanted to put him on the spot a little bit there with that to make sure we get him tomorrow too.
Yeah. No, listen. I don't think either of us were expecting this news to happen this morning.
No.
But when it does, this is now the number one coach that's made available. So you have to
this
get
is
into
a big
it.
deal. This is a big deal. So, all right, let's bounce around from the weekend a little bit and get some thoughts off of our plate about the games.
Can I start it?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Because you caught a lot of heat for your opinion on the Brandon Hagel hit.
Oh, let's go there.
We saw Matthew Tkachuk lay one on Jake Gensel.
Totally
I want to
different.
get your thoughts on the hit, and I want to get your thoughts on the coach's drama, how John Cooper used Paul Maurice's quote against him. And I said that series was 2-0, but I have a feeling that Brandon Hagel hit, the series is now just beginning. And I'm starting to think again, this series has just gotten started.
No,
I think Tampa wins that game tonight.
I'm not getting duped. Tampa played one good game last year against Florida in the playoffs, and then Florida handled them. I think Florida wins again. Okay, so yes, a lot of people, a lot of Tampa fans did not like my take on that, which is totally fine. And they're not going to like my take on this one either. Okay, not even close to the same play. Okay, like I said, I thought he should be suspended a game. Hagel, I didn't think he would, but I thought he should. And I said the reasons why. Okay, this is a completely different play. This is not an unsuspecting player. This is a guy who just had the puck. To me, this is a late hit.
It's a late hit. It's a late hit.
It's a fucking
It's also
dickhead.
a scumbag hit.
I just was saying it's a dickhead scumbag hit. Yeah. But to me, this is more of a dickhead scumbag playoff hit. You get your penalty, you take your lumps, and that's what you get. This, to me, it wasn't suspendable because, again, there was no head contact. He pulled up. It was nowhere near as vicious. It was nowhere near as predatory. I'm sorry. It wasn't the same hit.
Okay, so can I paint a different picture too? Because I didn't think Hagel deserved a suspension. I thought it was a dirty hit, but I didn't think he deserved one. I don't think Matthew Tkachuk deserves a suspension. But looking at it situationally, Hagel throws that hit. They're down 1-0. He's trying to change the course of the game. Kachuk throws this hit. I believe the score was 5-1 at that point. Like what? Like you have to. I think you have to look at that. If you suspend Hagel,
Yeah, but
in
you
that
can't.
situation-
But you actually can't. You can't. That's like saying a ref. That's like a ref saying, "Well,
managing a game and
that's
managing
a trip.
a series.
That's a trip in the first period, but it's not a trip in the third period." Like I don't know. Like I thought that. I don't think you can look at it like that, because then all of a sudden you're how are you're weighing things differently. I don't know. Like again, I thought the one game for Hagel was the right decision. This was a predatory hit on an unsuspecting forward who
You don't think this was predatory?
who was F1 on the forecheck. No, I even think that Kachuk held up a little bit at the end of this.
Oh,
hit.
he sees Gensel looking the other way.
I'm
and
not saying
steps
he
in.
didn't line him up. I'm not saying he didn't go full body into full body, but it was a dirtbag late hit. But it was not the same type of malicious predatory hit that I thought Brandon Hagel's hit was. I just see them different. I'm sorry.
Malicious, I'll agree.
Just
Predatory, I
understand
disagree.
this. Understand this. I picked Tampa to win this series. It's not like I'm like some Florida homer. Like, I'm just telling you how I see it. It was a late hit, okay? And, you know, it was a shame the way Gensel hit his face on the ice. Like, you hate to see that, but it wasn't the same thing. It was not the same thing.
I think Hagel goes at their top guy. That's a Florida Panther taking a liberty on one of Tampa's top guys.
Yeah, okay. Maybe there's a little bit of that. I'm not disagreeing.
I think the malicious of the Hagel hit was different than this, but I think the predatory and the intent was the exact same.
Yeah. All right, put New York Marine comment on the chat, because I think this is a good way to look at it. I think the violence on a player without the puck is not the same league of dirty as hitting someone who just released the puck. And that's New York Marine in our chat. And I agree. This is a guy who just had the puck and he passed it. And remember, everybody's looking at it in slow motion. Don't watch it in slow motion to make your full opinion on the hit.
Can we see it again, Vic?
Okay, you got to watch it in real speed. Yes, it's late, but in slow motion, it's really late. It's an hour late in slow motion.
Yeah, of course.
In real time, it's 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi late, right? And again, he just had the puck, okay? It's not, I'm not saying it was a clean hit, but it was not the predatory, malicious, vicious type of play that Brandon Hagel has on Barkov when he's an F1 forechecker. When does an F1 forechecker ever get hit
I agree.
without making contact first?
Full speed. Vic, full speed if we can. Because the slow-mo, it's not going to really help. Is this full speed? That's slow-mo too.
That's full speed, yeah.
Because I just wanted to see like when Kachuk decides to actually commit to the hit. Because I'm not convinced he was committed right away. And then Gensel releases the puck, and I feel like he turned his body into Gensel like a little bit after the fact.
Yeah, I think, again, you know, John Tortorella has said players are not, they're not ready for hits anymore. Like, you got to be ready coming through the neutral zone.
Yeah.
It's no different than Carrier getting absolutely bulldozed by Wilson yesterday.
All right, well,
like,
Tommy calling that a clean hit is just crazy.
How are you not ready for Tom Wilson there? Like, how are you not protecting yourself? You know, and look, I see what you're saying here, D. Ely. You know, everybody's like, well, you know, Florida's the dirtiest hit team in the NHL, but it doesn't matter. You can't say, oh, you know what? Because so-and-so did this and they're dirty, we're going to penalize this hit differently. Like, you're not looking at these any differently because the team may or may not be a quote unquote dirty team. Everybody's generally pretty dirty in the playoffs.
Yeah.
You're just playing more like a piece of shit in the playoffs than you do in the regular season. So that's my opinion on it. And again, I know I'm going to trigger a bunch of Tampa fans. Remember, I picked Tampa to go to the Cup finals this year. Okay. Take your head out of the sand, take the fucking cotton balls out of your ears and listen to what we say. Okay. You're making things up. You're hearing what you want to hear.
I'm just reading Josh Doig. That's the one thing I don't understand is the net is empty and Kachuk is right there. Would you not be thinking he's going to probably run me? Watch out for him. These guys need to be smarter. Yeah, no, I agree.
Players need to
Again,
protect themselves a little bit more
Yeah.
these days. Guys they just leave themselves so wide open to get run over. And like, it's a contact sport. Like I said, it's not the same thing. So everybody complaining and crying that those are the same plays. Again, you're watching this with Homer glasses, right? Like Johnny and I have no horse in this race other than we both picked Tampa.
I'm gonna be honest though, and
Are you not normally?
No, well, like, okay, so I could phrase it differently, but thinking about it more, I think there was actually more intent on Tkachuk than there was on Hagel. Like, I think Tkachuk is like, this game's over. This guy's not looking. Let me fucking lick my chops and throw a big hit. Where Hagel, yeah, he saw a chance to line a guy up and he did it. But Tkachuk, to me, the mindset of the game, I'm saying situationally again, this was my argument, is like, this game is over. We already lost. Let me send a message. I don't think Hagel is necessarily sending a message with the hit he threw. Yeah, it was dirty, but I don't know if it was sending
What are you
message.
talking about?
Yeah, I knew you'd have that reaction. But
What
think
the
about
fuck
the
are you
situation of
talking
the
about?
game. Think about the situation of the game. Why would Brandon Hagel send a message down 1-0 in the third period when Tkachuk down 4-1, 5-1?
Let's go back to the tape of you talking about Hagel targeting Barkov because he was their best player.
Just now?
But who's saying he didn't? You're now saying that Brandon Hagel basically didn't mean he didn't know what he was doing. Is that what you're saying now?
He did.
So what are you talking about then? You literally said on our show the other day, you go, this is Brandon Hagel seeing an opportunity to take out Florida's best player. Well, what you're saying right now is completely contradictory of that.
I'm saying Tkachuk more so did that just because of the Barkov, like the Barkov.
How's it different then?
It's getting even on a top player. It's getting even on a top player.
Okay, so getting even, but you just said that wasn't it. You're saying that Tkachuk's is worse. How are you coming up with that?
Because it's the getting even. That's what I'm saying. There's more intent behind it to get even. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
Because you're down 5-1.
Yeah, we can just agree to disagree. Like I think that you're going back, in my opinion, you're going back on what you said on the show the other day on Friday, I believe, or whenever.
No, I still think I'm keeping my same thought. I'm just saying, like, here, who's this? Ice Clubs. I agree with you, Johnny. Tkachuk intentionally threw a late hit. Hagel was finishing a check when he thought Barkov touched the puck, but he didn't, so it looked much worse.
Oh, so what? Now we're going into Hagel's head, and we're saying what we thought Hagel thought.
I was just reading a comment, but
but I'm just saying that's what people are doing.
Tkachuk intentionally did something to get even, which is what my point is. The intent is just the same, as if not worse. I feel like it's very easy to understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
In a 5-1 game, intent to get even on one of their best players seems pretty obviously understandable.
Okay, but intent to get even is if you're saying it's the same, but in the beginning of this, you said it's not the same. You said Tkachuk's is worse than Hagel's.
Because of the situation of the game. That's what I'm saying. Situation. I made that clear. The situation of the game. 1-0 versus 5-1.
You made it clear that you thought he was that Hagel tried to take their best player out of the series.
I'm standing by that. I didn't change my opinion on that.
Then you're just contradicting yourself. That we don't need to go 1,000 rounds.
Okay,
you think I'm wrong.
You just don't listen to me.
Wrong.
You just don't listen to me.
I am listening. You're not articulating it well. You're not articulating.
Well, the chat seems to start understanding what I'm saying, but you won't listen to me.
That's fine. No problem. I since when am I worried about what anybody else thinks?
No, you're not. That's the point.
Okay, so there you go.
You don't care about what I think. You're not listening to me.
I am listening to you. I just don't agree with you.
That's fair.
I hear what you're saying. Your point has been made. I don't agree with you.
Fair enough.
Okay, so that's fine. Like we can agree to disagree on that. So that's one topic from the weekend.
that's just one. Did we even get into Tom Wilson really?
Well, I mean, I mentioned the hit. It's like,
the Canadiens fans wanted the game to stop.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing was absolutely ridiculous. That was ridiculous. Like because it's too hard of a hit.
Oh.
Like what are we asking for a whistle for? What is Dobas asking for a whistle for?
I don't know. Because Carrier gets up and goes back to the bench. Like, I don't know. What are you supposed to do?
That's what I'm saying. Like, we just like
if he lays there, maybe the game stops.
Yeah, maybe, but
they never got possession.
Fuck.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Wilson gets the game at all for that. There was no was that a dirty hit?
No, No,
I didn't think so.
no. It was a great hit. It was a bone-crushing hit. I mean,
Are people
literally,
saying
like,
there was head contact? I didn't see.
the bones in Carrier's body rattled around on that hit. That was a train coming down the tracks. I mean, that was as big of a body check as you will see. And look what it led to. You know, look what that check leads to. I mean, I'm pretty sure you texted us right after that hit before the goal.
Yeah,
and
I changed the game.
You literally wrote, "This changed the game," and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden they scored like 5 seconds later.
Yep.
So,
Well,
I
because it
mean,
reminded me honestly of like in the Four Nations game, the McAvoy hit on McDavid, and then boom, like a minute later, Gensel scores to tie that game. Like a huge hit like this just changes the course of a game.
that's a body, like,
But
if
this
you're
was like
asking for a
this was
body
like 8
check,
seconds later.
that is a body check, like a full body check. Like that is a good hockey hit. And that's the difference between 2-2 and 3-1, right? I mean, Washington is look, Montreal's ahead of schedule, and you give them a lot of credit, you know, for the way that they've played, and you know, you've got all these young players playing these massively large roles. I mean, it's admirable, but I think I think Washington's too good, and like hopefully they get Protas back soon, right? I mean, like that's the hope, and it makes you wonder, like, where, like, Leonard didn't play very much last night. Does Leonard end up the odd guy out when Protas comes back? Like, does that shift him? Because I don't think you're going to put him on the fourth line, especially the way Duhaime played. You know, and what do you have, Dowd on the fourth line? He's certainly not going to come out of the lineup.
Yeah, he's been there all year.
You know,
well, I think Beauvillier was the guy who got put on that top line, but he's been playing well.
Right. It's like, so do you bring Protas back in, and do you put him in Leonard's spot? I don't know. You're certainly not going to mess with the PLD McMichael line, right? Like, and Wilson. So I'm curious, and it kind of leads me to a question, and it's like, have we not, like, every time we have the discussion about the best rookie, you know, whether it's Demidov or Bouillon or Leonard, like, we don't. I think Snuggerud's been the best one. Like, Snuggerud has looked the most comfortable of all the college guys that have jumped into the NHL. And, you know, look, Snuggerud and Leonard got more regular season games because they lost earlier than Bouillon, and then Demidov obviously came over. So they both got more games. But is it because you think Snuggerud's playing with house money a little bit in St. Louis? Those guys are just like running this hot streak, and I don't know, but Snuggerud has looked better than Leonard. Like, there's no doubt about it.
Well, he's also playing on the top line. Like, I feel like getting better minutes, if that makes sense. Like, isn't he on the power play too? Like, I don't think Leonard's getting much power play time.
Yeah, well, that top power play doesn't come off the ice. And I think like, Snuggerud's probably a little bit older,
Snuggerud's
too.
playing first line, first power play. Like, he's been put in a great
he's
position.
He's only 20, so he's not really older than Leonard. Maybe a year at the most. But listen, he's obviously, he's getting that. Snuggerud's not 23. It says he's 20 online. I just looked that up. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know. He
didn't. I don't think he played World Juniors this year.
I threw his name into the Google bar, and it says he's born in 2004, which makes him 20 years old. So, but look, Bouillon's playing defense. It's much harder to play defense. And Snuggerud's getting first line and power play minutes, but he's also doing well with them. He does not look like a college guy. He looks like a guy who's just fit right in. So I think we just have to give that credit to Snuggerud, because honestly, like, we didn't give him enough coming in. We thought it would be the Ryan Leonard show, the Zeev Bouillon show, the Demidov show, like all of that type of stuff, when Snuggerud has just kind of been the best one by far out of all of those guys. And that's why he's getting those top line opportunities.
Yeah, no, he's been unbelievable. And I know you also wanted to talk about Lane, right? Lane Hutson, you know, in Montreal, like, he's put up points, but he hasn't looked, I think, as comfortable as maybe you had thought going into playoffs.
Well, listen,
but again, like, but we said the Capitals were going to bully this Montreal team.
Yeah, and look, you got to realize something. Like, first time in the playoffs, he's an undersized defenseman. He's playing matchups against the other team's best players. look, he's small around the net. You've got to be one of the things these young defensemen that they have to learn is you can't, like, when you're playing college hockey, you can take your foot off the gas for 1 second in the defensive zone and it doesn't come back to bite you. And you can't do that in the NHL. You can't take your foot off the gas. And Lane has learned that a little bit. Zeev has learned that a little bit. I'm still totally impressed with Lane Hutson. I mean, it's unfortunate when the goalie's out last night. Forget who comes out to the point. It didn't get mentioned on the broadcast, and his pass gets picked off there. Whoever came out on the point with him has a great stick. Like, makes a little play on the puck, which is what influences the pass that Hudson makes, which is why he doesn't get it to the half wall there when they win the draw with the empty net. It was Duhaime. It's a great play. I forget who it was. One of their fourth line guys. You're right. I think it was Duhaime. It's a great little play there. But look, I think with Lane Hutson, he's going to continue. What did he have? Another 2 assists yesterday? Like,
yeah, I mean, his assist in game 3 to Cole Caulfield was insane.
Unbelievable. I mean, that anticipation that he had to jump Ovi on the boards, that started 5 seconds earlier. He creeps down, he reads the play, he jumps the play, and then it's on and off his stick to Caulfield in a second. So I continue to be impressed with him.
Yeah.
I'll take the defensive lapses for Lane because he's usually in the plus, like in the positive
the ratio.
Category.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. He makes 50 unbelievable plays. He's gonna make a couple of high risk plays that don't work out, right?
Yeah. There's so many, like, dude, we haven't talked Landeskog. We haven't gotten into the Hurricane. There's so many.
Here's the one thing about that stuff, though.
Yeah.
Everybody's all over social media.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about this stuff. I don't want to, we don't have to relitigate every little thing. Listen, the Landeskog stuff gives you the chills,
it's amazing.
Man.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Like, you get teared up when you see the Landeskog stuff. You really do. But everybody's seen it. It's kind of old at this point.
That's what's crazy.
By the way,
Luke,
nobody is blaming Lane Hutson here, by the way. That is not what we're talking about. This kid is a fucking superstar, like, plain and simple. And he's upped his game in the playoffs. And, like, come on, he's phenomenal. The last place I want to go, like, I know we still got to do Ninja Crispy, and I think you have an interesting one today that's going to trigger some people.
It's Vicks. First of all.
So you're throwing Vic right under the bus.
So it was hit.
The other thing I want to do quickly today before we so let's do this before we do let's do Ninja Crispy now. Then we'll talk about looking ahead, and then we'll do Bet 365. All right. Okay. So let's get to Ninja Crispy and let's hear the hot take today, because this is gonna trigger some people.
Okay. And it's all like, whatever. Okay. Time now for the crispy hot take presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable glass air fryer.
Meet the first of its kind, the Ninja Crispy portable cooking system. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand, so you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
It's an all-in-one system that includes a 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass container and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is a thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-size air fryer in the palm of your hands. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. You can cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container with Max Crisp, Bake, Air Fry, and Re-Crisp. With the Ninja Crispy, you can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. Visit their website in the link in the description and stay tuned for a chance to win a free Ninja Crispy for one of our lucky fans. And this is producer Vic's hot take that the Winnipeg Jets should trade Connor Hellebuyck. What do you think?
I don't think so. Because
that's a hot take for sure.
That is definitely a hot take. First off, the series is 2-2. Okay. And at this point, I've never felt worse about picking the Winnipeg Jets to win this series. I certainly do not feel good about this right now, but
I stuck by St. Louis the whole time. Give me credit. I have not changed.
You never wavered, and I picked Winnipeg to win the series. I don't feel good about it right now. Both teams look better on home ice, clearly. They have 2 days off, but I don't know, man. Like, you're going to trade away a guy who gets you into the playoffs every single year, who does give you a chance to win. I mean, like, and then what? You're going to have the Edmonton Oilers duo as your goaltenders? Like, I think most teams would die for Connor Hellebuyck at $8 million. Or what does he make? $8.5 million. Like, that is quite the hot take.
Yeah. LJ just said, did Vic say this hammered at Greta? LOL. We don't have to dive too much into that, but if Winnipeg loses in the first round, I'm sure it'll be a conversation of some sort. It could be. But let's look at tonight, because we only got 2 games tonight. There's been, honestly, we talk about the scheduling a decent amount. Saturday's schedule and Sunday's schedule in the NHL was perfect. You have game after game after game after game. It felt like the bubble again. Just watching one game after the next. I only got to watch the night games on Saturday, but I saw all 4. Yesterday was dialed. It was unbelievable hockey. That late night game last night too, like, I tweeted before the third period, I wouldn't go to bed just yet with 97 and 29. You never know what's going to happen. And I was up to like 1:30 last night watching
with LA just sitting back. It's like a joke. I mean, look, if the Oilers win this series, like, it's like the worst defensive team that's ever won a series in the playoffs, maybe ever. I mean, I agree. Crazy how much they just refuse to manage the puck and defend. It is crazy.
All right, but let's look at tonight. We got Tampa and Florida in Florida for game 4. The Bolts are down 2-1. And then Colorado and Dallas is the night game, 2-2 series back in Dallas. Let's start with Tampa, Florida. I think Tampa finds a way to do it tonight and tie this series. I think getting Hagel back after last game, Vasilevsky, bounce back performance, looks good again. Their power play scores. The Gensel goal that started it, that little slippery play by Kucherov to get it to him was disgusting. Unbelievable goal. But again, like, I took Tampa. I was definitely nervous after the first 2 games, but this series is such a coin flip to me that it's a tough one to predict.
Yeah, I like Florida to win tonight. Again, pick Tampa to win the series, but I remember Tampa gave us a little glimmer of hope last year, and they won. I don't think it was they were down 3-0 and won. I think it was when they were down 2-0 they won this year. Last year, I mean. So I'm not taking the bait anymore. Like, I fool me once, twice. Like, Florida's going to win tonight, and I think Florida's going to win this series at this point. I don't see it. I don't see Florida losing 2 in a row on home ice. They're going to come out. But
we said the same thing about Tampa. We picked Tampa because we didn't see them losing 2 in a row.
I mean, nobody's won a home game yet in the series. So that's just my opinion. And then going to the late game,
I send him back in.
Do we know that for sure?
No, I'm out. You think?
I don't know that. And I like Colorado to win again tonight. I picked Colorado to win this series. I'm not jumping off that bandwagon. Landeskog is not only playing but contributing at this point. I just think that this team is going to continue to rally and win. And again, like, look at how the big dogs play. Oh, so Vic is letting us know it was 3-0 last year, and Tampa won game 4.
Yeah.
So that wasn't a 2-0; it was a 3-0. And then in game 5, they lost 6-1. Okay, yeah. So appreciate that info, Vic. I couldn't remember which one that was. I think Colorado wins tonight. I really do. I just like the level that McKinnon and Makar and those guys can get to, and like, I feel like they're. I wouldn't say their backs are up against the wall, but like, there's blood in the water here. Like, there's blood in the water. This is 2-2. Now it's a best of 3, right? It's 2 out of the next 3, and someone's going home. And I just think the killer instinct to Colorado is going to win out.
I agree. And obviously Ottinger getting yanked in the last game too. That's tough. Blackwood has looked unbelievable, I think, for the most parts of this series so far. And listen,
let me say this about that comment though. When a goalie gets yanked in a playoff game, especially when you're in these, like, you play every other game.
I don't think Andre played well in that game.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's your traditional get yanked. Like, sometimes you just got to get your goalie out, give him an extra hour of rest. You know what I mean?
He was the only reason they were in that game.
The stress of a third period when your team's playing like shit, give him the rest mentally, physically. So I don't think Ottinger gets, like, traditionally yanked in that game. And I think that's the same with some of these other situations.
No, that's a good way to put it.
you look to get your goalie out and get him a little bit of extra rest. So that's what I think about that one. About the games from this weekend, Johnny, like which of these series are you like? The Hurricane series is not surprising at all. It's really not been entertaining at all.
I think we both had Canes in 5.
Yeah, like it's not been entertaining at all. I think the
But
Capitals
Freddie Anderson now hurt
Canadian
too again.
series, the Capitals Canadian series is kind of what we thought. The fascinating one is LA and Edmonton. So before we go on to 365 here, I'm going to ask you for a prediction on that series. Like, how do you see LA Edmonton finishing out?
Okay, so this is going to sound dumb. 2-2 series, but it feels like LA is losing. Does that make sense? I think this should have been a sweep.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's 2-2 right now, if I'm a Kings fan, I feel like we are down in this series with how everything.
Listen, they have pissed an easy win series away by their third period. By the way they played in the third period, the last 2 games, they've pissed this series away. So and
I know this whole Kings home ice advantage, but I don't give a shit about that anymore going into game 5 because there is no lead that I feel comfortable with right now if I'm LA. And Darcy Kemper, we praised, excuse me, we didn't pray. We praised his play down the stretch in the second half of the season. And right now, I mean, does he have the worst? He has one of the worst goal saves above expected in the playoffs right now. The worst, I think, is actually Connor Hellebuyck, which is crazy. Connor Hellebuyck has the worst goal saved above expected in the entire playoffs, -7 right now. But I mean, this one again, though, I don't trust either team's goalie or defense right now to really pick a side. I'm still thinking it's LA that wins the series, but I'm going to say 7 games now when I initially said 6.
Me too. I think it goes 7.
I think the home teams will win both.
Yeah, I think it goes 7, and I'm staying on LA. I'm staying on LA in 7, but I'm with you. I can't go with Edmonton. I can't do it. The other thing I just want to hit on really quickly, like, and I know we got to get off at 10:30 here, and we got to do 365. First off, let's get if you're enjoying our episode today, make sure you give us a like. The likes are a little bit light. The audience is big today, but the likes are light. So make sure you like and subscribe. Keep pumping up those numbers for us. And if you are audio only, or if you are someone who comes to YouTube but you don't get it live, leave a comment. The more comments, the more topics that we know we need to hit on, and the more things we know we need to circle back on. So make sure you give us the like, give us the subscribe, and leave comments on the YouTube. Get the automatic downloads going if you're audio only, wherever it is that you listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
I've seen Tommy T put this in the chat a number of times today, asking why players run into their own goalies. I don't really know what you're talking about here, as far as like you think players are meaning to run into their goalies, as if like Dylan Strome tried to run into his goalie. Like, again, you're watching these things in slow motion. You're watching them with your cameras from a high angle, on game cameras. The game happens a lot faster than you think it does. And that's the bottom line. Nobody is trying to run into their goalies. Nobody is trying to hurt their goalies. So, like,
you're addressing that, honestly.
I don't really know what the question here is. Like, I don't understand the premise here, but I've seen you putting it in the chat a bunch of times. I saw you tweeted at us over the weekend. So it's the best answer I got for you, because it's not, I don't know.
The one thing I'll say we didn't do a good enough job, but we can do it tomorrow because they don't play tonight, is the Minnesota Vegas series. We can talk about that tomorrow. We can spend more time on it because there's no game tonight, but we didn't talk about that one at all.
And Shiny Groot says in the chat, Colby, Cohen, you and all other media personalities that keep calling the Oilers an easy out are the reason why the Oilers have piss and vinegar in their step. Good. Everyone keeps calling them an easy out. Yeah. Okay. I mean, sure. Watch the Edmonton Oilers defend in their own zone. Watch
and NHL defenseman texted me last night
and watch the turnovers that they continue to do. If you think that's going to get them through the playoffs, well, keep watching the Edmonton Oilers play with your rosy-colored sunglasses. Like, they have found a way to win the last 2 nights with some superstar plays by some superstar players. But if you think that the way they're playing is sustainable if you think that the way that they're playing is a good brand of hockey to try to win a Stanley Cup, well, again, you must live in a place where everything has rosy colored glasses about the Edmonton Oilers. So that's
Vic just said Connor McDavid's in our chat fuming right now.
Yeah, exactly.
What J-Rock said?
What'd you say?
Look at what J-Rock said.
Would Colby run Jonny if he was a goalie?
That would be on purpose, Tommy, to your point.
I don't think I ever ran a goalie too bad.
It's a joke, man.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to think if I ever ran a goalie. I ran a lot of catchers in Little League, stealing home plate. That I took no mercy on. So, anyways, all right, let's get to Bet365 because Vic's got to go. He's got Leafs Morning Take. He's got to produce here in 30 minutes, I believe.
Yes. So for tonight's bet, I don't know how people are going to feel about it, but if you want to get in the action for Stanley Cup playoffs at Bet365, they've got you from game props, player props, totals on the money line. You can even bet on futures like series winners, conference champions, and the Stanley Cup champions, and much, much more. Whatever your bet is, it's never ordinary at Bet365. So download the app and get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs, you must be 19 or older. And tonight, we're going with the Tampa Bay Lightning on the money line to tie that series up at 2. Plus 120, pretty good value. And listen, both of these games, I couldn't pick two better matchups to have as a back-to-back, I think, in tonight's games. That first game is going to set the tone for the late game. Obviously, a pivotal game 5 for the Colorado-Dallas series, but this is a pivotal, maybe this is a hot take. Whoever wins game 4 tonight in Florida-Tampa, I think, wins the series. I don't know if that's like such a crazy thing to say because if Florida goes up 3-1, no shit, they'll probably win. But if Tampa ties this thing up at 2, going back home, I don't know. I feel like they can get it. I believe in Tampa the whole time, and we'll see. But that's all I got. I know it's 10:31, so Colby, you wrap it up.
All right. Again, it was good to get Frank on today to talk about the Mike Sullivan news. Thanks to Mike McKenna, who gave us a lot of fascinating information. It seems like the goaltenders consistently come on our show and do a great job of explaining things that are important and are interesting, that, again, only goaltenders can do. Only goaltenders who have played at the highest level can understand it at that depth, and can talk about it at that depth from their personal experience. So it was great to have those guys on. DFO Live, noon today, regular time, Tyler and Frank. I think the sheet is back to their 3 p.m. slot. So last week was just their 1 p.m. slot was on Thursday and Friday. So they'll be back to 3 p.m. I don't know if Zach is still here in the chat or if he wants to chime in for who they may have as a guest. I see something lighting up here. Carter Hutton is on the sheet. Oh, no, wait. Is that what you're saying to us, Vic, that Carter Hutton is going on the sheet today? Is that what that? Yes. Okay. So more goalie talk at 3 p.m. with Carter Hutton going on the sheet. Again, he's another one of these guys that just breaks it down so well. So you won't want to miss out on that. Make sure you make sure you subscribe, make sure you check out Daily Faceoff. Leave comments on the YouTube. Again, really,
I'm sure that Kachuk Hagel hit will have a lot of comments.
Oh, I'm sure my DMs will be filled up.
Mine
today,
too, honestly.
Because everybody gets so in your feelings about it. It's okay that we can have different opinions. Like, you think that my take is no good. Well, most likely I don't think your take is any good. And I'm certainly not going to DM you and tell you that. Okay.
You and I just screamed at each other for 15 minutes and we're past it.
Yeah. You're more than welcome to have your own take on things. It's the beauty of all this stuff. Don't get so in your feelings about it. Take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. So, we do appreciate everybody from Friday's show as well. That was probably like our biggest show of the week from a numbers perspective. So, we appreciate you guys showing up hard for us on Friday, and we will continue to give you Friday shows this year throughout the playoffs. So we hope everybody has a great day. We hope everybody keeps following along with us throughout the week. Lots of hockey here. We only probably have a couple more days, Johnny, of 4 games a night. We're probably going to get
we got 2 tonight. That's it.
Yeah, no, but I know, but we probably, we're halfway through the first round, right? After the first round, we're talking about probably 2 games a night type of deal. which is a little more digestible in my opinion.
Yeah. Josh also must be new here, Colby. I don't know if you saw what he said.
It's nice to hear.
Nice to hear Jonny and Colby finally disagree on something.
Are you new here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with that, we hope everybody has a great day. We'll let producer Vic go to his other show that he does on Leafs Morning Take. Obviously, Leafs Nation, part of the family here. We talked about all the different properties that we have in Vancouver and and in Toronto and Ottawa. Those are all part of the same group. So check them out, and we'll see everybody as we always do right here tomorrow, 9 a.m. Have a good day, everybody.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Seravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe